Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is your friendly neighborhood Oxhorn, and if you're like me, you were a little bit confused about the experiments that Bethesda gives us in Vault-Tec Workshop. Also, you might not have realized at the time when you were doing the quest that the decisions you made during that quest permanently opens and closes some of the options that you have access to in the workshop for Vault 88. So in this video...
Oh, fuck!
Goodness, what? Okay, well, you just saw one of the results of the experiment happen live, and you can see that it happened over here as well. But basically, what this video is all about is I'm going to show you what each of the different variants of these do based on your quest results, and how much happiness they generate, caps they generate, power they generate, so on and so forth. Now, in order to do this, I actually have a mod installed called Experiments Unleashed by Lazy Girl. This mod opens up access to every version of these experiments, so that even if you made the quote-unquote wrong choices during your quest, you still have access to all of the same bikes. So let's open this up. First, we'll talk about the power cycles. Now, this power cycle produces 2 energy, and this is the one you get when you choose the environmental choice, the environmental enhancer, the one that mixes like lavender and vanilla, the silly one. And now this one is the only bike that doesn't kill your settlers. It only produces 2 power, and it must be manned, so it's not really effective for generating power. Now, this one right here also only generates 2 power. It's called the Sustained Use one, but to build it, it also requires buffout. So you'll know that you have the Sustained Use one when one of the ingredients is buffout. The idea behind this one is that it injects your settler with buffout while the settler rides. And with this one, I assigned this settler to it, walked away, came back to assign another settler, and I found her lying here dead. So it works incredibly effectively and quickly. The last one is the additional power one, and it generates 4 power, so it generates more power than all of the other versions, but it too can kill settlers. And I can see this really only being useful if you just have some settlers that you want to kill. Maybe you got a synth, or maybe you got a ghoul, and you're one of those people, and you just don't like synths and ghouls, and you want to execute your settlers without having your entire settlement turn against you, so you can just assign them to a power cycle, and then watch them die from exhaustion. Anyway, so the power cycles really only produce power. They don't produce happiness, and that is really only their only use. So this first one is the appetite suppressant version, and see how it's got this yellow looking color on the inside. And this is the one that you get when you choose the option to have the appetite suppressant to consume less food. And an interesting thing about this is it kind of acts like a crop. This station generates 1 food just like a crop does, but it doesn't generate any happiness. Now this one with the purple color is the mood enhancement, and as you can see that unlike this one actually produces happiness. 15 happiness to be exact. Of all of the items that you get with the Vault-Tec Workshop, 15 is the highest amount of happiness that any of them can generate. The last one is the caffeinated one, and you can see that the caffeinated one has this sort of greenish bluish color of fluid up there, and it actually produces 5 happiness. So if you want to get the most bang for your buck, use the mood enhancer one. Of course, that's the morally ambiguous version, but it does generate the most happiness. But even the morally good one, which is just caffeine, still generates 5 happiness. Now for the faux Raptor. If you make the subliminal messaging decision, you get this faux Raptor, which actually consumes the most electricity of all the faux Raptors. It consumes 6 electricity. I guess that extra 3 electricity is to power the subliminal messages. But it also produces 15 happiness, which, as I said a minute ago, is the highest amount of happiness any of these little doodads can produce. Now, each of these does require electricity, just like the soda fountains, and you have to you have to assign a settler to each one, so they do consume settlers and power. If you make the morally gray choice, you get the Vault monitoring version of the Raptor, and it only produces 5 happiness, as you can imagine, because it's kind of creepy saying "obey the overseer" over and over again, as the settlers point out during the quest.
Scorpion or a Yaogwai?
Who cares? Super mutant behemoth versus Deathclaw. Now that's a real fight.
Thanks for that little piece of wisdom there, buddy. Gosh, my settlers are freaking Philistines. Anyway, it only produces 5 happiness. That's 10 happiness less than the others. Now, the final one is the eye care one, and this is the one where you choose one of Tim's experiment, or Tom, whatever his name is, and it just actually detects issues with eyes, and it generates 10 happiness, so only 5 happiness less than the subliminal messaging one. Also, one more note about the Vault monitoring one. Each one of these consumes a whopping 25 nuclear material. That's 25 nuclear material. I guess the Vault monitoring technology runs on uranium or something like that, because that's a whole lot of nuclear material for one Raptor. So they only like to use the slot machines after work, and there are 3 versions. This first one is the indentured servitude version, and it actually produces around 30 caps every single day. So it's the only one that turns a decent profit. But remember that your settlement workshop has a 50 daily cap limit, so just putting down 2 of these is going to maximize that limit anyway. So, my opinion, not the most useful of ones. The next one is the profiling version, and it actually produces happiness. It produces 5 happiness, and it'll sometimes randomly produce 10 caps. I'm not sure about the consistency on how often it produces 10 caps, but it will produce 10 caps every now and then. And the final one is the lost revenue version, and it produces the most happiness. It produces 15 happiness, but it also costs 500 bottle caps to build. So it is the most expensive one to build, but it produces the most happiness. Now, these final 2 things are not part of the experiment, but they do generate happiness. This is the strength bench, and it'll give your player character 1 strength until you override it with a different attribute. And it gives you 2 happiness. So for every one of these you get an extra 2 happiness. And this is the Pommel Horse. It gives your player character an agility bonus until you override it with something else, and it also gives your settlement 2 happiness. Finally, there is the Barber Chair, which you can sit in to change your hairstyle. You can assign a settler to it, and it generates 5 happiness. I took a look at the surgery chair, and the surgery chair does not generate happiness. It sadly doesn't generate happiness, but the Barber Chair certainly does. So there you go. That's all of the happiness generated by every new object in the Vault-Tec Workshop DLC by number. Now, I did update my settlement happiness calculator with these numbers. So for those who don't know, I produced this settlement happiness calculator a long time ago, and you can use it free on Google Sheets. There's a link to it in the description of the video. To get this to work for you, you need to go up here to File and Make a Copy before you can start to fill in all the details. But I updated it with all of the new objects that came with the Vault-Tec DLC. So here's the Barber, the weight benches, the Pommel Horse, the mood enhancement fountains, all of these. So all you have to do is punch in this green column the number of items that you have, and then make sure that you've got your settlers filled out and everything else, and this calculator will do the calculations and tell you what your target happiness will be in that settlement based on the parameters that you've set here. So you can use this to help to better help manage your settlement happiness and to understand how the choices you make in your settlement build ultimately end up affecting happiness. Before I go, I want to give proper credit to Therian Mech on Reddit. He very kindly spent the time to go through each and every one of these, and he's the one that calculated how much happiness each of these generates. So many thanks to him for his tireless work, and I link to his thread in the description of this video so you can see other aspects like how many resources each of these units requires to build, so on and so forth. I also linked to the mod that allows you to build any and all of these experimental machines, regardless of the choices that you make, in the description of this video, so feel free to go ahead and check that out if you're interested. Anyway, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this video was helpful. Please subscribe for more Vault-Tec
Win
workshop videos like this. And thank you all so much for watching.